Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, you just got out of the Rules Committee, did you not?
Literally just got out. I mean, less than a minute ago, we were in the Rules Committee meeting debating this bill, and I heard you talking about the IRS when I came on. The Democrats all afternoon were talking about how they're only going to go after billionaires and big corporations. I posed the question, how many billionaires are there in the United States?
Exactly.
No one knew. There's about 700, just north of 700.
Yeah.
So why do you need 87,000 IRS agents to go after really what's a handful of people in the United States? Clearly, the Democrats will use these agents, which, by the way, they're arming. They'll use them to go after everyday Americans. I'm talking about people that own farms, small businesses, and so forth. And if you remember Lois Lerner, those days, they will target conservative groups and conservative voters.
Oh, I remember those days very well, and we can expect a lot of that. And, you know, when you talk about these, the IRS agents and going after, now, this is middle America they're going after. They have to, because as you said, there's only so many billionaires. And of course, the Democrats will tell us that, oh, you know, if you're not doing anything wrong with your taxes, you know what, it will be a nightmare. Then these middle class Americans who can barely afford to put food on their tables and fill up their gas tanks are going to be required then to get professional help if they're audited. They're going to have to hire someone, and it's painstaking, and it's difficult, and it's just awful. I can't even believe it. So, Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, we talked about how they're supersizing the IRS and hiring so many more IRS auditors. You know, actually, Americans making less than $75,000 are going to be subject to so many more audits. They're talking about in the 700,000s. They're talking numbers that high.
Right.
That's bad enough. What else? You know, when they call this the Inflation Reduction Act, I can barely say it with a straight face. This is anything but. Are there other ways that we in Middle America will suffer as a result of this legislation?
Yeah, yes, there's a lot of ways. And if I could just revisit quickly the IRS agents, you know, they might say if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to fear. What they don't realize is the process is the punishment. The fact that you have to go through the audit, you have to hire experts, that's the punishment. You may not have done anything wrong, but you're still out all that money. Just like when when Republicans are wrongfully prosecuted, think Michael Flynn or entrapped, it's the process that ultimately does them in. Now, how else will this hurt everyday Americans? You got electric vehicle credits that will, it's in essence, the middle class and working class subsidizing luxury electronic vehicles for the affluent and the wealthy. If you own an EV, you're probably making well over six figures a year. The average EV costs about $60,000. So only the wealthy have those EVs, but it's going to be the working people that pay these subsidies for the affluent. The other thing it's going to do, your energy costs are going to go up, not just gas, but natural gas. All the electric grid is going to cost more because the Green New Deal mandates in this bill. That's, in essence, a tax on all of us. And then let's not forget about inflation. It's absolutely Orwellian to call this the Inflation Reduction Act when it's going to do the opposite and leave it up to the left to redefine these terms and call something the exact opposite with what it's not. They're fighting inflation by injecting more money in the economy, which caused inflation in the first place.
Yes.
Then they're turning around saying they're going to get us out of a recession. When they admit that we're in a recession, they'll say we're going to get us out by more taxation and more regulation, which, again, that is what brought us in the recession in the first place, was an increase in regulation. So it's truly backward, but they get away with this because the legacy media refuses to point out the hypocrisy that's going on.
You know, and when you talk about the Green New Deal and what we're seeing in places like the Dutch Netherlands and Sri Lanka, places that have been forced to comply, you know, under their own, you know, the European Union idea of a Green New Deal, this is not a great place to head. It really isn't. And then when you tell me about now they're giving electric vehicle credits, and you know, it's another newspeak in a sense, because you talk about EVs, and then at the same time you're saying this is all part of the Green New Deal, and And yet, when we source what's necessary to build those batteries for the EVs, we're doing it on the backs of child labor, of slave labor almost. Those people that are in the mines, they're in bare feet, no protective equipment. Then we've got these huge batteries that are going to go die and go to landfill heaven. And that creates another problem. The batteries are almost as large as the car themselves. I mean, it's just, again, the hypocrisy and the untruths. We talk about this being a Green New Deal when, in fact, we are not prepared for that. We have problems already with solar panels not being effectively recycled. And now we've got these batteries that someday are going to be just building up. Someday a kid's going to say to our great-great-grandchildren, say, what is that, Daddy? These mountains of batteries from electric vehicles. It's
right.
Just out of control.
And the same people that are pushing for the solar panels and the EVs, which will, of course, lead to a lot of EV batteries in about 10 years. The life cycle in those is 7 to 10 years.
Right.
They're the same people that refuse to bring more nuclear power plants online because the perceived waste of nuclear, which now we have ways of recycling nuclear waste to make energy even longer into the future. But that's just a quick plug for us investing in nuclear. But also what they fail to realize is EVs are still using fossil fuels.
Yes. Because
the drywall is not producing the electric current. That is coming from a power plant. And newsflash, about 80% of our power grid is fueled by, wait for it, coal. So you're doing nothing by driving that EV. The emissions are just shifted to the power plant, not your vehicle. And again, the economic or the environmental destruction of these mining facilities, and also the cost on the people that are doing it, like you said, they're virtually slave labor and child labor. And then just about the credits for wind and solar, the nation that benefits from this is China, because most of the rare earth elements that are needed for those solar panels and most of the technology for the wind turbines are from China.
Yep.
So China is laughing at us as they export this garbage to us to weaken our power grid. And then China is bringing more coal fire plants online and more nuclear power plants online. What that's going to do is it's going to make manufacturing a lot more expensive in the United States. It's going to make it a lot cheaper in China. So we're going to continue to have this imbalance between us and China. And it goes back largely to our backward energy policy. And just one last thing. We were bringing down our carbon emissions under President Trump. It was through natural gas, which until like 10 years ago, everybody thought was a clean energy. It is. The Europeans actually label it a green energy. We do not, but we were reducing our emissions. China, on the other hand, has increased year in, year out their emissions. But again, they're giving us this bill of goods, sending us these solar panels and wind turbines while they build coal-fired plants.
I've got 1 minute. Thank you, by the way, for all of that information. 1 minute. It goes for a vote when, and then we're done, right? I mean, there's no fighting this. It's a done deal, and we're going to just suffer the consequences.
Well, remember, elections have consequences. So for everybody that thought it was cute to split party vote, I'm talking to people in West Virginia who voted for Manchin, thinking they were somehow sophisticated voting for a Democrat, or people in the suburbs that didn't vote for President Trump, for example, and sat it out. There's real consequences to this, and it's the economic hardship you're seeing now. Yeah. But Republicans don't have the votes to block this. That's why we need to retake the House in the fall.
Amen.
So look, the Democrats get a report card in the fall, and I think they're going to get a big F, and I think Kevin McCarthy will be holding the gavel come January of 2023.
I hope you're right. Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, thank you so much for heading right over to do an interview here right after you left the Rules Committee. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Rose. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.